Brush by Per Calders. Illustrated by Carme Solé Vendrell. Translated by Marguerite Feitlowitz. Read by Hector Elizondo. The day that Turco, a little pistol of a pup, ate Senor Sala's hat, Senora Sala decided that enough was enough and that it would take the patience of a saint to put up with this mischief any longer. So she got the whole family together and asked each member his opinion of the situation.
No.
No.
No. Go.
It was decided that the gardener's married daughter would take Turco and keep him in her house. Little Sala was so sad he thought he'd die. To him it seemed there was no way to go on living without his little pup. After he stopped crying, however, he realized he had to fill the emptiness left by Turco's absence. First, he tried to imagine his aunt's canary as a companion, but he immediately knew they could never be close friends. Then he imagined that the floor lamp in the library was a faithful soldier. For nearly 2 hours, he thought he had solved his problem, but soon it was clear that he still longed for his beloved Turco. He needed to find something that could take the dog's place, yet not destroy his memory. He went through the house, and finally, in a corner of the attic, he found a very big brush, banished forever from the family broom closet. He closed his eyes and passed his hand over its bristles. He had the definite impression he was petting a dog. In fact, this first encounter felt so good that little Sala decided not to search any further. He tied the brush to some string, and in less than 5 minutes was no longer even aware he was dragging a brush behind him. Rather, he believed Brush was a dog of rare pedigree who was following him all over the house. Before getting into bed, he tied Brush to a chair. But no sooner had he tied it up when he was overcome by a wave of tenderness. The idea that Brush would spend the night tied up sleeping on the cold floor made him feel bad. So he jumped down, untied Brush, and took it into bed with him. Soon, little Sala noticed that the brush was snuggling up against him for a hug. This naturally was very serious, because it's one thing to pretend to change a brush into a dog, but it's another thing if the change really happens. Little Sala was astonished to see that the brush, though it still looked exactly like a brush, was moving around like a dog. It turned a few somersaults and then showed its stomach to be scratched. Little Sala couldn't sleep all night, and as soon as he heard his mother up and about, he went downstairs with Brush under his arms. "Look, Mama, I found a brush that is really a dog. It moves, knows my voice, and has fleas." Without interrupting her chores, his mother looked at him and said, "Don't be silly and get rid of that piece of junk. You're old enough to be a little more sensible." He was hurt. He said nothing more, brought Brush to his room, and thought that if they didn't want to believe him, it didn't matter. They'd be the losers. At dinner, his mother jokingly told about little Sala's discovery, and his father laughed as though it were the craziest thing in the world. Little Sala didn't say anything because he knew that ultimately justice prevails. Sooner or later, he knew his family would realize that some things aren't what they seem and shouldn't be laughed at. The next night, he was awakened by Brush's howling. He heard the sounds of a struggle coming from the library and his father calling for help. Little Sala opened the door, tiptoed down the stairs, and saw his father fighting with a burglar who was stronger than he was and who was about to hit him on the head with a fire iron. "Get him, Brush! Bite him!" he cried. Brush ran like the wind and hurled himself at the burglar and bit him on the leg. The burglar was so surprised by the ferociousness of such a thing that he immediately gave up and was handed over to the police. A little later, his mother, with tears in her eyes, promised she would never again doubt her son's word. And his father, passing his hand over Brush's bristles, said, "We'll make a house for you in the garden with all the latest conveniences. And above the door, we'll have painted, 'We're not sure that it's alive, but it deserves to be.'"